Hey there, Future J back again. This is part 2 of the build video for Captain Rex's ATTE by Lepin. Take it away, Past J.
Alright, we just completed step 157. I think I'm going to have to take a break to eat dinner. But you can see these next set of steps have given us all the legs for the Wogger. So this one's kind of just a little bit decorative. Doesn't really touch the ground unless you're, I don't know, maybe my table just isn't level enough for it, but it's just kind of hanging out there just to look kind of cool. And again, third, knockoff Legos, the pins are so loose that things tend to flop if they're not connected. So we might have to replace those pins just so you can pose this a little bit. But you can see the leg kind of just, it's very flexible. This one, you can turn the foot out, and there's a lot of movement in this one. These less so. These are just kind of basically for it to stand on. There's not really a lot of, you could maybe move it in a little bit, but there's not really a lot of posability to those. They just sort of let it stand up. But the cool thing is you've got this handle, so you can pick the whole thing up and move it around. And it's stable. When you drop it on the legs, it's stable on those legs. So that's pretty cool. I like this back one, how it's kind of rusted out because I, haven't been taking care of it right or whatever. It's kind of cool. Alright, on to the next bag. Alright, so this would have been the completion of another bag if this were a Lego set. So you can see we've got the armored plating on the little tank here on both sides. Yeah. Then we've got the turrets. Now these turrets, if they were Lego, they'd probably stay like this, but these are very, very loose. I guess they might stay if you don't touch them too hard. They tend to just want to fall with gravity. That's because these parts here, just not tight enough. These are all held on by like one pin. I really kind of despise when they do that. Let's see if I can fold it away here. They're held on by those pins that were just hanging out on the side of the body. And then there's a hinge here, and they just kind of tuck them in. I mean, that's alright, but it's so not really stable. I wish they were just held on by a second pin or something. But that was it. That was a lot of repetition because all of these panels are basically mirrored and the same. So you got 2 of these and then 4 of these. On to the next set of steps here. We got 60 some odd more steps to go. Alright, and that is the next bag. So we've got the landing pad / where they put their catch, I believe, attached to the top. And this is just attached lightly so you can take it off and see the room underneath. We've got some little lighting details on the back here. The only thing I didn't do in that step, I didn't attach the string component to the cranes yet. I always do that last. It's just such a pain. Hate tying that stuff. So we'll do that last. This is kind of a cool little detail here. This thing ratchets up. I think it's meant to just stay up there. And that's it. I like the detailing on the landing pad. This is kind of cool. I like the color used to. Alright, on to the next bag. This is one of those very rare moments in a Lego build where you can accidentally use the wrong piece and never figure it out until you're missing that piece at the end of the build. So I used a 2x10 instead of a 2x8. So it only left a 2 gap here, which didn't matter to anything in the build. The only reason I noticed is I got to the end and I needed 2 2x10s for this piece. And I only had one 2x10 and one 2x8, and I was like, they gave me a wrong part. So I started looking back through the instructions, like, is there any possible way I could have put this in the wrong place? Yes. Unlike most builds I've done, this has an area where you just don't notice that you left the wrong gap on there until you're missing the piece you need. So I had to pull it all the way apart, way back to like step, I don't know, 15 or something on here. So now I'm going to have to put this all back together. So when you see this in the time warp, you know I screwed up royally, and that's why I've had to pull it all apart and put it back together. All right, and that is it for Captain Rex's ATTE. So this is pretty cool. I like that it takes an all gray Clone Wars set and turns it into this colorful thing. If you've watched Star Wars Rebels, you know Rex is retired on this, fishing with his buddies. So you've got the lure under here, got some lights. Obviously, they modified it. They took off two of the cannons so they could run other stuff on this. These cannons, you can tell this is Lepin. Woo! There's like no tension. This piece doesn't have enough tension. This is pretty cool in here. That chair we made way back in the first step and I forgot about. You actually can sit one of the clones on there, and then they actually slot into here to be the driver. So that's pretty neat. You've got the big cannon on the top here. It's got a pew pew blaster on there. Don't really use that, but the cannon itself is pretty cool. This is just held on. This is one of those lightly held on pieces that you can just rock off and access the parts below there. Now this is, I think, just meant to be the extra pews for the pew pew blaster. And they just put them in here, and that's just held on by one stud so you can get it out easy too. Probably never take that off. This is just going to go on display. Then that just rocks back on there. Moving back here, you can see the crates that we built early on. You can stick those up here on the shuttle pad, what I call the shuttle pad. We've got the cranes on here to reel up their catch. Got little platforms for them all to stand on. This is probably my favorite feature, is they built in this handle so you can just pick this whole thing up. That is just fantastic. I love that. And it's built into a place where in the shows, you know, there's a connector piece between the two halves of the tank. So it's really kind of discreet there. That's pretty cool. I like the little landing pad that they did. I really need to find a Phantom so I can land it on there. This, again, just is lightly held on. It rocks off so you can get in the command center there. And use the handle to turn it around. Then we've got the back deck with the ladder. I really love this rusted leg thing. That's such a cool detail. This was a lot of fun, but of course I had to rip part of it back apart because I messed up. There's a lot of little technical details that go into it, so it's probably going to be frustrating for kids or younger kids, but this is a lot of fun to build. My only gripes with it are basically I don't like anything that they just hold on with one pin. It's just so flimsy. And the other gripe is, obviously, this is Lepin. Now, Lepin doesn't exist anymore. They've become Lion King and Queen and a bunch of other companies. But this was made, you know, this is even discontinued by them before they were busted. And this was made before the knockoff brick quality got super high like it is now with like King and Mold King and all those. So some of the pins are just super loose on these things. They're just barely held on there. It doesn't matter too much to me. Like I said, these are just crazy loose too. This is just going to be, you know, eventually sitting on a display shelf, so whatever. But if you're buying this for, you know, playing or whatever, you probably want to get some Lego pins to replace the Lepin stuff. Unless one of the newer modern companies ever remakes this. But this Lepin version, if you can find it, yeah, it's got some problems. Some of the joints are a little loose or whatever. But again, for my purposes, it's fine. Now this was just under 1,000 pieces, like 972, I think it was. So this is quite a build. It took me 3 days just because I was taking my time. That's a lot. That was really, really cool. There's a lot of really cool pieces. The only part that gets tedious is the armor, because you repeat this 4 times basically, and it's quite a chunk of build that you repeat 4 times. But otherwise, this is a lot of fun. I really like the colors on this, and the detail stickers are really cool on this one. And there wasn't a ton of stickers, even though there's almost 1,000 pieces. There were less stickers on this than on like a couple of the 200 piece sets for speeders and stuff, which is funny. But yeah, that's it, man. That is Captain Rex's ATTE. I believe this is minifigure scale. I'll have to double check, but I think that's what Brick Vault said when I looked at a review of the Lego version. So hopefully I don't break this. You can kind of see what it looks like next to one of the ATST walkers. Now again, these were in the Clone Wars, so they were a little more squat. And then the Empire started building things a little taller. And I know these walkers are minifig scale. And I'm pretty sure that this is too, just based on what I remember from the cartoons. That's it, man. That was a lot of fun to build. Thank you, everyone, for subscribing. Thank you for clicking like. And we will see you here next time on 7-Star Off Topic. Just an addendum. That is the ATTE in the Clone Wars era. So you can see that's using a clone minifig for reference. This is about 2 minifig size. Obviously, the retired clones had modded the heck out of this, so it doesn't look exactly the same, but that is about what size it would be compared to a minifigure.